end until we actually get to inputting to the input value, right?
I'm sorry?
So we're not actually using the
going to unblock
append
No, that's right.
function.
You are, but it's
Like
it's
indirectly.
an discriminant operator.
Okay, yeah.
So 2 showing, right?
I'm getting an error.
3 shows.
Am
6.
I missing this key?
Just right there.
Yeah, we have an exclamation here at the end of .text.
Just right click.
Look at this.
Oh, because you have like touch drag inside.
Yeah,
So much.
But you know, if it makes you feel better, my other class, they go through this all the time
So
too.
you want to go fast, you would just do this.
Really?
Yeah,
You know what it is this.
You notice that your
this
C
table
also
Yeah.
isn't.
exactly.
is screwed.
They
No,
need to replace
not
them
the
all.
C, right?
No, we're going to do this.
Okay.
I thought the C was a different one.
Is she
It is.
redlining? Is she
That's why
redlining the
we're
input value?
doing the if statement here.
Oh, okay.
So we
See
said that
212 show
then.
up? 212.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Where?
What was that?
We're showing 212. Build
Oh,
up.
she's going to run the code right now. She had touch drag inside.
Oh, okay.
Simple mistake.
No. All right.
Wait, did you press it down and see?
Yeah, it works.
Everybody has that?
Cool. Okay. So we have that. We have this clear the input value behavior here. So this is a great place to use what? What language construct can we use right here? Yes.
The one that's on line 23.
One that's on line 23. If C. We need to use a what? Constitutive. If. Okay, let's write this out. If button text equals C, then how do I clear this input value? Anyone?
Print,
Sorry?
should be print ln 0.
Print line. Sorry.
Well, wouldn't you just enter 0?
You probably just enter 0. Okay, so this is a good point to stop. Like what behavior do we want? We definitely want to do 0. The problem with 0 is that we don't know if it's a real 0 that we typed or if it's the result of a clear. And sometimes it can get a little confusing.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to say that for our purposes for this demo, we should go with the empty string because of this appending operation that we're doing. So when you hit clear, I think we should just go blank instead of doing 0.
Doesn't matter, like if you, even if you do purposely put in 0 and then 0, 9, it's still
Well, now you have to test for whether the value is 0 or not.
Let me just answer that with this. So when I was doing the calculator, just because I started with 0 was like 1 extra function and 5 extra lines of code.
Okay.
Because it is the app needs to know the difference between you're starting at 0 and you pressed 0.
Okay.
So that extra check is a pain in the butt.
Okay. So I've cleared the input value just by setting my property to the empty string. You see how the semantics of what I mean in the app and what I'm writing in the code are a little different, but they're correlated with each other? So clear the input value. What does it mean to clear? Well, I'm going to say for myself that setting my property input value to an empty string is what I mean by clear. Right? I'm defining the semantics of my app. So the thinking of the internals of the app are starting to take form. Right? They're starting to mimic thinking. Sorry.
Yes. Delete buttons. Basically, I'm doing this, setting up to nothing. Everything that's in that field.
Say it again.
Like if C was a delete button,
Right.
to delete everything from the screen, every text you wrote, you will do something like that.
In the app that I'm
Right.
writing now,
Right.
yes, because I'm declaring that that's what I mean by clearing or by deleting. Right? Okay. And that's the funny thing about code, is that code is never prescribed. Right? It's not like there's a correct way to write something. It's very much like poetry in that you're expressing something and you as the poet these words mean, right, at the moment that you're writing them. That's what makes code more of a creative act. It's more creative than it is engineering, actually. So when we talk about software engineering, it's actually a very creative act that's going on, like on your engineers' keyboards. So in this case, all the other buttons that I have are 0 to 9 and the dot. So I don't have to test for these cases individually. I'm just going to use my else clause as a fallback for that. The C is the exception. So I'm just going to say that in all other cases, append the digit to the end of the input value. So now I'm going to hit oops. So I'm going to keep the code up, but I'm going to start typing number 89, C, and then I can type 1, 2, 3, C, 1, 2, 5, C. My important case, 2, 1, 2, and C. So every time you hit C, you should see a blank line, because it should always hit the print line here at the end. Right? So I always want to be checking what that input value is, making sure that behavior is what I want. 7, 8, 9, C.
Mine says C.
Oh, did you do this?
You probably did lowercase c. Just make sure that.
Uppercase or lowercase? Yeah, right.
Well,
I wrote it uppercase C.
Right. Well, basically, it's whatever you put in the button.
It's whatever you
make sure that you put in the button is also what you're checking for.
Or the code is executing outside of the else statement.
Yeah. Assuming that everything else is properly structured, that's a likely case. And so what Angel's actually bringing up is that thinking about what's happening in your app is a detective story of figuring out, okay, what are all the different ways that behavior could happen? Did I write the wrong statement? Am I checking the wrong variable? What are the values of the variables that I'm working with? So, for example, to troubleshoot that problem, I could have commented back in or uncommented this line to see what my button text was, and then right next to it, printed out the value that I expected, like this, to see them side by side.
Because you have this here.
Or I could even test it. And so that will print out true or false every time I tap on something. So dot, false, 0, false, C, aha, true. Like, I can actually write code to test my own code as I'm going along.
All that stuff that we pushed to the bottom when we first started is
Stuff.
now.
Oh yeah, that's actually all being written out as code now. So-
No,
The view did load.
Oh, this stuff?
yeah, it's giving me errors.
It's good, yeah. If you're getting errors in code that you haven't touched before,
Yeah.
you probably have a brace that's out of place, right? Because in that case, like the braces are the thing that tells Swift, oh, this is a chunk of related code, this is a chunk of related code. And if you're missing a brace, now it's saying, oh, now all this code looks like it's related in this way. It encompasses all of it, looks at it, and says, that doesn't make sense, and then throws it in there.
Fix everything if you hit control. You back up, mine's like not working.
It'll
Sure.
align it where it should be, or what does that mean?
It's supposed to.
Control F?
It's not working.
So wait, the self.input value plus equals button text is keeps.
It's not actually correct.
I'm sorry? Okay, let me ask a question about code. Tell me the line number you're talking about first,
21.
and then ask me a question. Line 21.
Can you just explain that?
This one?
Yeah.
Well, input value is my property that I'm keeping track of. That's the value that I'm eventually going to convert to a dollar, and then do some conversion on. So this was the point that I was making about semantics before.
Wait, I'm sorry, it's line 24.
Line 24. So this is the same append statement that we just had. I talked about interaction and behavior that I wanted here. And as I'm typing numbers, I want to put a new digit to the end of my input value. And so this is the line of code that makes that happen. So I'm holding a string, and I'm using the string's append operation to mimic this notion of adding a digit to the end of my number. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the whole essence of coding is trying to figure out what behavior do I want, and then is there a way I can describe that in code? And then one way is to do my own custom thing that's potentially complicated. Or here, conveniently, I know that there's a data structure that's already been provided to me, a string, that has an operation that parallels the behavior that I want, appending. So I'm like, aha! I can just represent that as a string, and then through appending, get the behavior that I want.
Okay, line 21, append it as a line.
That's right. Because we're setting the meaning of our code, right? Clearing the input value, I'm saying that setting an empty string to my input value is what clearing means. Okay?
And line 12
This is the property of our class. This is the property that we're setting to hold track of the value that we want to convert, our input value. Right, the one in the upper left there on my wireframe.
Yeah.
So that's a piece of data that I'm entering. It's a piece of state. It's a piece of data that is persistent throughout the lifetime of the app that I need to hold in a particular place. And so, for our purposes, we're going to hold state in properties in classes. So my class is viewController, my property is input value, it's a type string, and I go from there. Okay, so the last thing that we need to do is update the input values UI label. So the thing that's displaying in the app itself. This guy here that says the people. So in order to make that happen, I need to reference that label. Actually, I need to reference all of these labels. So I'm just going to do the standard procedure, Control-click, and say new referencing outlet, and bring it over here. And then the name that I want is input value label. So that name gives me the opportunity to use the same words that I picked over there in my wireframe. Oh, this is my input value, but it's a UI label. So I'm going to tack label on the end of it so that I remember that symbol, that variable, is referring to a UI label. This makes it much easier to communicate with other developers. If you do the midterm with someone else, you need to have a contract like that wireframe over there so that you can use the same terminology, so you can be really clear with each other about what you're talking about. Input value and input value label are two different types. One's a string, and the other is a UI label. Say connect, and there we go. If you want to be bold, and you can go ahead and set up your input unit label, output unit label, output value label. But I'd rather us just go ahead and enter the code to set that value. So, because it's somewhat exciting to see it actually start to work in the app. So now I'm going to say self.input value label. The property that I want is text. UI labels it's always .text. And for text views as well. Now I'm going to set that to self.input value. Because that's the thing I want to display. .text was a type optional string, so I can feed it a string, and it should be okay. So if I hit play now, I run my app, I should start seeing some nifty behaviors up here. 1, 2, oh, crap. You see it work?
Wait a second.
Sorry?
You're setting the text of the button?
The text of the input label right here.
Oh, okay.
Right? That's all I'm doing. That's the magic of my app right This is all that I have. This is my entire view controller that actually has app logic in it. It's a little messy because I have a bunch of comments. I highly encourage you to comment your code like this, by the way, because it really, really helps you both understand what you're doing at any given moment, but also when you come back to your code later, understand what you were trying to do. So if I were to do this as cleanly as I would like, I'd probably do it like this. And I might comment out line 33 once I was confident that this was working properly.
So generally, you're using the print lines for each block of code that you're checking? So you don't necessarily have to have multiple print lines within a function. I guess that's kind of, I know, that's probably like you need a situational type of thing. But
it's situational, but also you're in development, so whatever information you need in order to figure out what's going on in your app is super useful. And in fact, a better way to even write this print line would be like this. Sorry, I'm getting a little flustered. Input value equals, and I'm going to interpolate that value in there. So in my print lines, I know exactly what value I'm printing at any given moment. This is good practice for debugging. Go for it.
That's how the cool kids do it.
That's how the cool kids do it.
The purists would do it in 10 steps, just because they're purists. Go into the debugger and then inspect every single variable that you have in there. But
Yeah. Well, debugging is something that maybe you can go over.
I think I do it this way.
You do it this way?
I don't have time
This is
for that.
called poor man's debugging. The real way to do it is this is neat because it's interactive, right? So I can go boom, 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 boom. If I know that there's a problem, I can set a breakpoint and use the debugger to inspect a bunch of variables.
Oh, you don't
Let's not even get into that yet. That's how the cool kids do it. All right. So anyway, what I'd like to impress upon you though is this behavior that, up here. So you should be able to type in a number, 87.2, and hit C. What's wrong with our behavior here though? What's wrong?
doesn't really know what anything means.
I'm sorry? It doesn't know what anything means, but just in terms of this typing interaction, what's a problem that I'm going to run into?
It's gonna get too long where you can't see the whole thing.
It could get too long.
Get cut off.
Exactly. It could get too long and cut off. What else? Sorry.
Two dots.
You can have 2 dots. 12.2.1. Oh, that's not a valid number. That's an IP address.
Go ahead and clear, and then put 00200.
Oh, and then there's another one. I can have leading zeros. What the hell? Today, we're not going to worry about that. Midterm, you can worry about that. Okay, so it is 8 o'clock. We're going to 9. Is that right? We're cutting off at 9 today. You have an option. You can take a break now, or you can just charge forward.
Let's finish.
Finish?
Yeah.
Finish? All right.
And I have a question. I know you were joking about submitting this, but what if I wanted to show somebody? Is there like an easy way to show someone, or?
If you have an Apple developer account,
Mm-hmm.
then yes, there is.
Okay. Okay, I'll ask about it later.
Okay, this is a good time to ask that question. How many of you have gone ahead and paid the $99 and signed up for Apple developer account? 1, 2,
Oh, I didn't
3.
pay for it. I signed, but I made an
Oh,
account.
you have an account, but you didn't pay for the full thing.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you need that
Okay.
in order to actually run it and show it to someone.
Mm-hmm.
We are about halfway through the course.
So we
If
should do that.
if you want to show it on your phone or device, now would be a good time to apply for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's super simple. You pay them $100. It takes like a week or whatever to get, right?
And it's optional.
And it's optional, but it's really
That's
exciting.
really cool.
It's really cool to see your app on the phone. It's super awesome. If you have a designer friend, like they can design an icon for you. We'll show you how to drop in all the media. It feels fantastic. Okay, so let's do a parody. Let's do a little parody check here. So let's go back to our interactions. Let's see how well we're doing. So I have this behavior here. Check. I'm doing appending. I haven't done the conversion to double yet. Haven't done any of this yet. So what I need to do is I really need to enable these buttons. I need to figure out what my magic is. So my conversion magic, convert. And then I need to show the answer. Show my output, as I'm going to call it. Right? So tap. Tap, convert, show output. All that I have left. Okay. Let's do it. So, the way I'm going to get started with this, let me just take a step back for a second. How would I think about this? I think the first thing that I want to do is actually hook up this button, because we're in Interface Builder right now. So I'm just going to do a touch up inside and insert a new action. And I think I'm going to call it convert F to C.
Where did you put that?
I'm sorry?
Where did you drag it?
Okay, so this is the same thing that we've been doing since day one.
Yeah.
I'm just going to drag it. I'm going to drag from touch up inside to
Like
below the last action that I wrote.
Okay.
It has to be a member of the class. So it has to fit at that level in my bracing hierarchy. Right? So it has to go after that line 37 brace.
So it's in the class.
It's in the class, yeah. All IB actions will show up in the class. So she get this. Okay. So I'm going to write my pseudocode in here. So I'm going to get the input value and convert to the double, right? So I have to do that over there. Convert the input value and then update the output value. Oh, sorry, update the output value label. Yes?
I may be getting ahead, but wouldn't we want to convert to a double inside of the on button press methods? Then we don't have to do it for each of the buttons.
We very well could. In fact, it's perfectly valid to do so. And for now, I think that if I were to convert it to a double, I have to keep track of it somewhere. If I were encapsulating it properly, like if I would have to have another property that was my input value double or whatever, and then constantly update that. But I don't really need to at this point if I'm not doing it live. So another interaction model could have been I tap the conversion that I want to do, and then as I'm typing, I calculate a new value. In that case, that would be a great way to enable it, because then I always have that value available.
Thanks.
Sure.
Don't you have to put the units?
We do have to put the units as well. I'm going to leave that for you all to do on your own. I'll show you the technique that I think is a possible way to do it. But it's not mission critical for us right now. The mission critical part is that conversion logic over there. So, but we have a bunch of information that comes along with this conversion, right? We have an imperial to metric equation. We have the units that we're starting with. We have the units that we're ending up with in our output. And then potentially a metric to imperial conversion if I wanted to add that in as well, right? If I wanted to have a way to flip it around, and instead of converting imperial to metric, I wanted to convert metric to imperial. How would I enable that? And on top of that, I have 4 different conversions that I want to enable. So that to me implies that I need to make a class for this idea of a conversion. It's a bunch of information that I need to wrap up into a single unit that I can then deploy and then change the behavior of, right? Because the equation for converting Fahrenheit to Celsius is different from the equation of converting pounds to kilograms. So that sounds like an idea that extending a class could enable. Okay. So I'm going to get out of Interface Builder right now, and I'm going to go into some code. So open up your navigator. this button to make sure that you have your navigator open. Yes?
I was trying to connect the F to C, but my thing is not coming up.
Okay, Angel will help you. Angel will help you with that. Okay, well, I mean, when you were trying to connect it, how did you do this?
Yeah.
And then you just dropped it over?
I put it in class.
It's in the class. This is in the class.
Because it's below.
I'm sorry.
It's below the class you set up.
This is the class definition right here.
Right.
But anything that's the first level of hierarchy inside these braces, meaning it's not inside another layer of braces, means that it's at the class. It's at the class level, we say.
What do you see?
Okay. Could you help me?
There.
All right. So at this point, what I want to do is this notion of conversion. I want to create a class for it. But new classes like this, what I'm going to do as a rule of thumb is to create a new file for it to include that class. So I'm going to go to File, or I can even right click here and say New File. Are you still lost?
Yeah, I'm really lost in that. I just want to see what you named it, because I want to keep, like...
Convert F to C. Yeah. Okay. So this is what it should look like right here. That's all it
This is
should.
outside of a...
Here, let me post it to Slack and you can paste it in if you need to. But I really have to keep
No,
moving.
that's not.
Sorry.
Fix your indentations first, because there's something funky there.
Indentations were here.
Yeah, see,
Okay.
here you're saying you finished.
So in this case,
And there's
create a new
writing something
file.
in between two functions. That's what I'm reading right now.
Go to iOS source Swift file
So
and
it's-
call it conversion.swift.
Do you understand what I mean by that?
Conversion.swift.
Okay.
Singular
So this brace,
for our purposes now.
Sorry, new file, Coco Touch class?
this brace here
No.
means that you close your
No, Swift
class.
file.
Oh, Swift
No,
file,
no,
okay.
right.
And
Okay.
your IP action
Same
is
thing.
supposed to be inside of a
And then
class.
call it conversion and save it.
Oh, I see. So you see?
Conversion
So
outside.
either that doesn't belong there, or you have an extra one, or you're missing one. So just
Okay.
control your opening braces and make sure.
So
that
here's the
that's-
class interface that I think we should enable. So we're going to write a base class that has the method that we need for converting from one set of imperial units to metric. And then it'll include some other properties as well, like our units. So I'm going to say class conversion. I'm going to create an empty initializer, and I'm going to give it one method called convert. It's going to accept a double and return a double. And by default, I'm going to return 0 because this is our base class, it doesn't do anything. So we also have to keep track of units. We might as well go ahead and give that a shot. So I'm going to have two properties. One that's imperial units, which is a string, and metric units, which is a string.
I don't like those names.
Yeah? Why don't you like those names?
Imperial.
They're just too specific.
Too specific.
For an abstract class.
Okay. But they can.
You know what? Never mind. We'll change it when we actually get to that part. I'm sorry. I'm losing my head. Sorry.
If we're calling different methods, then what do we want? Generic names for the parameters, like methods?
You might, but let's think about the app in terms of an imperial to metric convert, right? So the point that Angel was making is that if this had currency as well, we'd be totally writing the wrong properties.
Never mind me, I'm just thinking.
No, this is what we're here for. Like, how do you think about building an app? That's really what we're talking about in this class. It's in the framework of let's build an app that's like a calculator, but nevertheless, it's good. All right. So the conversion that I'm actually interested in now is not this generic thing. I'm interested in converting Fahrenheit to Celsius. So in that case, what I'm going to do is write another class that's an extension of this one, and I'm going to override my convert function in order to actually perform a real computation there instead of just returning 0. So class height to Celsius. And I'm going to extend conversion. And I'm going to override my convert function. Actually, can I do this? Okay. So did you see that shortcut, everyone? If I type override func c escape, now I can just get that little chunk of code. I can return the conversion. Now I can actually convert Fahrenheit to Celsius.
Constantine?
So
No, what's the formula?
Oh,
I'm just
is so 9 times c.
is it really?
No.
That's the other way around.
Yeah.
So I'm going to write a little convenience property for myself right here. So let f equals imperial. So I know that I'm starting with Fahrenheit. So now what do I do?
Then it's 5 times, and it's
parentheses.
Thank you. And then it's f minus 32, and divided by 9.
Okay.
Points.
Yeah. Remember, we're doubles.
Yeah.
So always write your doubles. Always write your doubles. It's a good habit to get into. So let f equals imperial, the imperial value coming in. Let c equals the value of the conversion. Return c. Every line does one thing. Right? It's easy to read. It's using familiar labels, like the formula. This is very much like a Wikipedia-esque look. It's very readable. So we'll be able to figure that out pretty straightforward. I'm going to ignore the properties for units right now because I'm really interested mostly in trying to figure out how to make this conversion work and how to get to the behavior, how to get to that core behavior. Showing the units is kind of a nice to have, right? If I'm doing my critical path approach, I want to get that core functionality working and then expand from there to make it nicer. All right. Does everybody have this in place? All right. Pro tip: go ahead and copy that name to your keyboard, to your clipboard rather.
Always.
We can also probably autocomplete it, which is probably a better way, but we'll see if it happens. All right. So get the input value and convert it to a double. You're not going to know how to do this unless you just remember it from the last time we had to do this. So I'm going to just write it. So I'm going to call it imperial.
Oh, so this is in the other font, right?
This is in the, yeah, sorry. Go back to view controller. And then we're going to edit this convert f to c function. So, or action. So in here, I'm going to choose a variable name like value to convert. And then, so, yeah, write this. ns string,
You gotta be kidding me.
string, self.input value. I know. This is all
I always Google that.
Oh no. All right. We're using one of the original underlying Objective-C classes. NS stands for next step. Do you remember that company, Next Step? Are they the Newton?
I didn't even know that's what NS stand.
Oh yeah, Next Step.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that's back from the days of the Newton. That was the company that. Do you know the history? Any of you know the history?
They haven't watched
I
the
knew
movie.
it was Next Step.
I never watched the movie.
Yeah, I'm kind of out of it as far as history goes.
I was listening to a podcast that talked about it. Yeah, I don't remember.
So now's a good time to do what? Anybody have a notion of perhaps what we should do in terms of developer workflow? Using a particular function, or which we do print line value to convert. And let's run the app to make sure that we're still in the realm of
Can I emphasize that part?
Go for it.
So notice how every time he's doing something, he's always doing the print line. That might seem tedious, but what this ends up doing is that instead of him doing 20 steps, and then he has 20 bugs that he has to go back and fix, he's checking that every process is doing what he wants, so that when he does get to that 20th step, he's not going back and trying to fix 20 bugs.
Okay. We do 12.3, and then hit F to C. Oh, 12.3. Boom. Everybody getting that? Does it work? You got an error? What's your error?
When I'm trying to convert to see something.
I'm sorry?
I'm going to try to.
Okay.
My dot doesn't work.
Your dot doesn't work. It's okay though. We can get a long way without the dot for now. Okay, right? Okay. So we need to convert the input value now. We wrapped up our conversion logic in a class. So we have to instantiate that class in order to use it. Because we haven't gone over static methods, we haven't gone over like how to use a class without instantiating it. Which is a better pattern for us now, because we're only going to use one instance of this class, but it's good practice for us. So I'm going to say let converter equals Fahrenheit to Celsius and just instantiate it like that. Again, not really best practice, but not important to understand right here. For those of you looking into the future, there is a brighter future right now. Still not working? What's your error?
It's a fatal error.
It's a fatal error. Oh. Everything died. I'm sorry. Angel will help you out. All right, so everybody instantiate their converter? Okay. So now what I'm going to do is say, let output value equals converter. And I have to call the convert function. And I have to give it something to convert, which is value to convert. I computed it, so I have to use it. And again, I'm going to print line that value that I got. So I'm going to instantiate converters. Now I have an instance. I can do dot convert on it because my base class and my extended class both have this convert method. That's where the magic happens. I'm going to pass it a value that I'm going to try to convert, which is my Fahrenheit, which in this case is Fahrenheit. Convert it to Celsius. I'm going to print it out on the console to see what happens. So I hit play. And then remember my test case, 212, because I know what the answer should be. It should be 100. If Constantine has his conversion right, we should be in good shape. So I'm going to type 212. I'm going to go up here and hit my F to C button, and 100. Bitch. Yeah,